Hey Laker Gang, welcome back to another installment of our math videos, and actually it will be our last math video before spring break. So sit back and let's get it started. So 9.6 is pretty similar to 9.5. We're honestly just doing the same stuff, except now we are going to be focusing on word problems, which doesn't need to scare you. Most of these still have their sequence charts written out, like right down here. So it's not really going to be much different at all. But if you remember, we are going to be focusing on finding the rules in our different sequences. If you can get good at finding that, then you can solve these no problem. So let's go ahead and read our question. On an archaeological dig, Gabriel separates his dig site into sections with areas of 15 square feet each. There are 3 archaeological members digging in every section. What is the area of the dig site if 21 members are digging at one time? So let's go ahead and let's fill out this little chart at the beginning. It helps organize our thoughts. So what do I need to find? Well, we are trying to find the area of the dig site if 21 members are digging at one time. What information can I use? Well, if we just read that first part, it says he separates the dig sites into sections with an area of 15 square feet each. So I can use the area of each section, which is 15 feet. And there are 3 members in every section. So how we can organize that is vertically, up and down, kind of like they've done it. We know that there is one section. We know that there is going to be 3 members in each section. And we also know that each section has 15 square feet of area. Now, it's not always going to be written up and down in order from least to greatest. That's just how we have it organized down there, so I wanted to match it up with that. I didn't want to confuse anybody. But we'll explain how to do that more. So what we need to do now is just figure out what this pattern is. So we need to find out what our rules are. If we have one section, that means that we are going to have 3 members. And I'm writing here over on the side just because I have infinite room and I'm writing on the laptop. You all can definitely fit that in your books. And then we have 15 for our area. So there's actually 2 rules that are going to be being used here. Number 1 is what you have to do to sections to get members. So your rule is going to be times 3. Section times 3 equals number of members. And then we need to figure out what our rule is to find area, and that is members times 5, because you have to multiply a 5 by that 3 to get 15. Remember, when we're trying to find the rule of a sequence, that's all that we're doing. We're just trying to figure out how those numbers are related. So, what is it that we're trying to find? We are trying to find the area of a dig site if 21 members are digging at one time. Well, if we have 21 members, what will our area be? Well, if we look up there, we said area members times 5 equals area. So you'll have to do 21 members times 5 to figure out what your area would be. And that'll give you 105. So 105 is what's going to go in that chart. I know we didn't fill in all those blanks, but we answered them. I just didn't write them down. I did answer them with you though. So we are going to have to be able to answer these also without our charts. And that's pretty easy to do because all you have to do is find the rule. We can actually make a chart by ourselves here. So let's read this problem and I'll show you how. Casey is making a design with triangles and beads for a costume. In his design, each pattern unit adds 3 triangles and 18 beads. If he uses 72 triangles, how many beads will he use? So, what are we trying to find? If he uses 72 triangles, how many beads will he use? So let's go ahead and write out what our rules are. We know that if we have one, excuse me, if we have one pattern, we are going to have 3 triangles and 18 beads. So, if we're using 72 triangles, how many beads are we going to have to use? That's why writing it vertical can kind of help. You can see what that rule is. We can also even work backwards. We can fill in missing spots. So, to get from pattern to triangle, it looks like we're multiplying by 3. So if we want to go backwards, we just have to do the opposite, which is dividing by 3. So if we divide 72 by 3, we figure out that we'll have 24 for our pattern. And that's just going to be important for future problems. What it is us being able to work up and down this little pattern right here. So now we need to figure out what we're doing to our triangles to get beads. Well, if we had 3 triangles and we ended up with 18 beads, what are you going to have to do to that 3 to make it an 18? That's right, you're going to have to multiply it by 6. So, what you're going to have to do is multiply your triangle, your number of triangles, by 6. So, we'll have 72 times 6, and I'll give you all a few seconds to figure out what that is going to be. And hopefully we got that. That is 432 beads. So, we answered that. He needs 432 beads. If we scroll down to the bottom, what rule could you use to find an unknown number of beads if you know the number of triangles? Well, what was our rule up here? We took our triangles and we multiplied by 6. So, number of triangles times 6. That's your rule. That's how you find out how many beads you're going to be using. Alright, so pretty straightforward stuff. What I want you all to do now, let's check out these next ones. I think you've got it down, but just in case, I'm going to work this last one out with you, number 1, and then I'll let you do number 2 by yourselves. So, Max builds rail fences. For each style of fence, each section uses 3 vertical fence posts and 6 horizontal rails. So, how many rails does he need for a fence that has 27 posts? Go ahead and underline that because that's what we're trying to figure out. So, let's just use the information in order that it gives us. So each section, so we'll start off one section, uses 3 posts. And you need to get in the habit of being able to write these by yourself because not every question will give it to you. And with 3 posts, it says we will get 6 rails. So if you look over to the left, it's actually asking you, what is your rule for posts? Well, if we have one section and then we have 3 posts, what do you have to do to that one section to get 3 posts? That's right, you have to multiply it by 3. So section times 3 is how you get posts. But what about rails? Well, we saw this was times 3. So we just need to see what we're doing here. To get from a 3 to a 6, we are multiplying by 2. So now we just need to fill in the rest of this information. We know now that we're going to have 9 sections for that last one. Oops, sorry, I didn't write this one. Post times 2. We have 9 sections for this one, and that'll give us 27 posts. So what was our rule down there? We said that you multiply your posts times 2. So we'll just multiply our posts times 2. And that will give us 54 rails. Alright, so what if another style of rail fencing has 6 rails between each pair of posts? How many rails are needed for 27 posts? So, I'll go ahead and let you all figure out number 2 by yourself. Use this chart. See what you're doing to get from posts to rails, and then write down what that rule is. Then tell me what that missing spot is. So go ahead and pause it and figure that out. Alright, and hopefully you saw that to get from a 3 to a 12, you are going to be multiplying by 4. So your rule is multiply posts times 4. And then for number of rails, you're going to get 108 because 27 times 4 is 108. Alright, so I want you to go ahead and do 3 and 4 on your own as well. Make sure you read it very carefully. Figure out what it's asking you to do, because for 3 and 4, it's not just saying fill in the chart. It says write a rule and complete the table. So go ahead and do 3 and 4, where you write that rule and then complete the table. And we'll go over 5 and 6 afterwards, and I'll give you a chance to do it as well. But you all go ahead and do 3 and 4 by yourselves. Hopefully you got that your rule is going to be work times 25, because you know that if you're working 2 hours and you get $50, what do you have to do to that 2 to get a 50? Well, you have to multiply it by 25. And the same thing for your next problem. You just have to look at that first little part of your chart. Nice rhyme. 10 out of 10. It says when you have 8 tokens, you're going to be playing 2 games. Well, what do I do to 8 to make it a 4? You either divide it by 2, or you can change division to multiplication, flip the second number, token times 1/2. And either way you do it, divide 120 by 2 or multiply it by 1/2, you will get 60. So now for number 5 and 6, I wanted to give you all a fair warning before you tackled it by yourself, because there's no chart for these. There is an image for 6, but no chart for 5, so read it very carefully and draw your own little vertical chart. It says that there are 2 cups of raisins in one batch. So when you have one batch, she has 2 raisins. And for every 2 raisins, there's 4 oats. So that gives you the first part of your chart already. You just need to continue that rule to answer that question for number 5. And for number 6, the only hint I'm going to give you is it's not always multiplication. Make sure that you check your rule. Just because your rule works for the very first part doesn't mean it always works. You can look at that one and see 2 times 3 will give you 6, but 6 times 3 won't give you 10. So your rule for number 6 is not going to be multiply by 3. Alright, so you all can figure these out. Go ahead and pause them, and then unpause when you're ready to check your answer. Alright, so hopefully for number 5 for your rule, you got raisins times 2. And I hope you also drew your table. You could also figure out your batch, because if you look here, your rule to get from raisin to oats is times 2, and your rule to get from batch to raisins is actually also times 2. So if you know you have 10 raisins, you can just do that backwards. If you multiply batch times 2 to get raisins, you can divide raisin by 2 to get batch. Down here at the bottom, you'll see that we are adding 4 every time. To each one, we add a block here, 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 and here. Every single time. So on figure 14 or 4, you have 14. So if you add 4 to that, you will get 18. My gosh, my numbers are horrid. But thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully I could help you all out with this a little bit. I'm sure you didn't need too much help from me, but as always, thanks for watching. I miss you all, and I hope you enjoy your spring break. Have a good one, Lakers.